So you're about to start your green card process, completing Form I-130, Petition for Alien Relative. And you have so many questions about the form, how to complete it, what are these boxes, what are these sections. In this video, we'll give you a step-by-step guide how to complete Form I-130 in 2024. The complete guide in this video. Hello everybody and welcome back to our immigration channel. In this video, we'll explain to you exactly how to complete Form I-130 that is used when you apply for a green card for a family member, a spouse, or a parent. This is a step-by-step guide how to complete the form. Now remember, we are not your immigration attorneys. This is a general information video only. If you need help with your immigration matters after watching this video, text me right here, 619-483-4549, or go to www.immigrationasap.com. Leave your information there, and one of our team members will contact you ASAP. But for now, if you want to learn more, let's go into the video.
So to start out with filling out the I-130 form, the first part of the form is going to be focused on the petitioner. You want to choose what your relationship is to the petitioner. So for this case, we'll make up a spouse case. So we'll select this as the spouse. If you were filing for a child or a parent, you would need to select on question number 2 what the relationship is. If they're married, if it's a stepchild or step-parent, an adopted child, all of these options are here. Just make sure to see if you fit the qualifications to fill out this form. If the beneficiary is your sibling, you'll choose yes or no on number 3. And then if you gained your lawful permanent resident status or citizenship through adoption, you'll select yes or no there. The next part is continuing information about the petitioner. If you have an alien registration number, you can insert your A number here. If you have a USCIS account number, you can include that as well. And you should include your US Social Security number. So in this case, we're making a petition. So the petitioner is going to be John Doe. So here's his name. And he has no previous name, so we will keep going. We will put that he was born in, we'll say, Los Angeles and in the United States. And we'll give him a birthday. And then you choose the gender. And then mailing address, so you'll put the name of the petitioner. So this will be John Doe again. And then put the address. We'll just make up an address here for the case. And then you choose the state. If it's a U.S. address, it typically will be a U.S. address here. And then the zip code. If your mailing address is the same as your physical address, you'll select yes here. If it's not, if you have a different address and you select no, then you will come into this part of the form and you will fill out what your different address is for your physical address. For the form, I'm going to select no here, and then we're going to add information here. So this goes into the petitioner's address history. You want to give your last physical addresses for 5 years, whether they're inside or outside the United States. If you have a different address from your mailing address, you want to provide that here. If it is the same address, you might as well just fill it in here. You can also put same as mailing address, but to avoid confusion, you can just repeat your address here. And then you're going to add the dates you've lived here. So if you've lived there for all 5 years, you'll put, I've lived here since April 3rd of 2017. And that'll be your only address in the form. If you have additional addresses, you'll add them here. They only give you a spot for 2 addresses here, so if you have more addresses, you can add these in an addendum at the end of the form. Make sure you add these later, but they only give you 2 here, so you can add them at the very end of the form. And then we're going to go into the marital history. So let's say John was married one time before, he's divorced now, or he remarried. So he's remarried, he's applying for his spouse. So he'll put married, and then the date he was married. So let's say he was married on, putting the date he was married, and then where the marriage took place. So if it was in the United States or if it was outside the United States, you'll put the city, the state, the province, and the country. I'll leave that. And then if he was married before, in this case we said he was, he'll put the last name of his spouse. So we'll make up another previous spouse for him, and they were divorced in, we'll say, September of 2019. For any previous marriages, they should have been ended before they are remarried. So you want to make sure that information is correct. And then we go into additional information. Again, if you have another spouse, then you would fill in their information there. If you were married more than 2 times, again, you can add that information in the addendum. They only provide 2 slots here. So for the parents' information, you'll insert the information of your parents. So you do, again, last name, first name, and then middle name, date of birth, and then the gender of your parent. For some applications, if your parent had a different name, you'll add that as well. And this one, so you'll put their country of birth, and then the next 2 questions are dealing with their residence, so where they're living now. If the parent is deceased, you'll put that they're deceased there. If you don't know where the parent lives, then you'll put unknown for those categories. Same thing here for parent 2. You'll fill in the same information for both the mother and the father. And then the next section we go into, it's more information about the petitioner. In this case, we'll say the petitioner is a U.S. citizen. If he was born in the United States, then you'll choose birth. If you were an immigrant and you naturalized, then you'll choose naturalization. If you got your citizenship through your parents, then you'll choose through your parents. If you did naturalize, you have additional questions to answer. So you're going to say, yes, I got a certificate. You'll provide the certificate number, where it was issued, and the date it was issued. If you're filling out the form as a lawful permanent resident, you'll select that you're a lawful permanent resident. If you haven't naturalized yet, you have not gotten your citizenship, so you'd say no, and then you would put the information for becoming a lawful resident. So what you became a lawful resident, your status or your class of admission, the date you were admitted to the United States, the city you entered, and the state. And then if you gained your citizenship through marriage, you would say yes, I gained through marriage, or no, depending on how you got your lawful resident status or your citizen status. And then next, the form goes into your employment history. They're going to ask for, again, 5 years of employment, either inside or outside the United States. You'll put the name of your employer. You can put, the name of the company. You'll put the address where you work at. If you're a remote worker right now, you'll just put the address you work at remotely. You don't want to put the headquarters. You would rather put your address where you work remotely. If that's your home address, then you would put your home address. You fill out all the information for the employer, so their address, the country, and then you'll put your job title. So if you're a manager, you would put you're the manager, and you would put how long you've worked there. Again, if this is your only employment, it's only been 5 years, then you'll put, I've worked here since 2017, then you would not need to put any more. If it was shorter, then you'd come and put that employer you worked at before that, so your previous employer, any you had. Again, you put the name, the address, your job title, and then how long you worked for that particular employer. If you're self-employed, you can also put that you're self-employed. If you're unemployed, you can also insert that you're unemployed. The next part of the form is going into biographic information about the petitioner. So the first question they ask what your ethnicity is, if you're Hispanic or Latino or not Hispanic or Latino. So you'll select either yes or no. And then the next question asks your race, so you'll select what race you are, you'll insert your height, you'll put in your weight, eye color, and then they'll ask for your hair color as well. The next part of the form we enter into is getting all the information for the beneficiary. A lot of it is similar to what you did for the petitioner, so they start off asking, does the beneficiary already have an alien number? Do they have a USCIS online account? Do they have a social security number? If they have any of those, they'll insert these numbers here. And then you'll give the immigrant's name. So this would be the spouse of John, so this is Jane Doe. If she had a name before, if she changed her name when she got married, she would put her maiden name here or any other name she had, so that would be her previous name. She would put the country she was born in and the city that she was born in that country. The date of birth, again, you would select the gender, and then this question is asking, has anyone ever filed a petition for the beneficiary before? So she had a relative who filed a petition before for her. If an employer filed a petition for her, anything before, you would say yes if they had, no if they hadn't, and if you were unsure, you would put unknown, but only if you're really unsure. And then the next part of the form is going into that address for the beneficiary. So if the beneficiary lives outside the United States or inside the United States, you're going to put their physical address here. And then if it's a different address from the above address, you're going to put the address where the beneficiary is going to live when they come to the United States. So if they're already here and it's the same address, you'll just repeat the same address. If it's a different address, then you will provide the different address that they intend to live here. Even if you don't know the exact address they're going to live at the time of filing, you can put the petitioner's address, but you'll just provide where you think the person will live, and if that changes in the future, that's all right, but just fill it out at the time. Additionally, you'll provide the beneficiary's address outside the United States if it's different from the above. So if they're in the United States and they have an address outside, that's where you'll put that information here. If they were already outside the United States and it's the same address, you'll just say it's the same. And then at the bottom of this address, they're going to ask for a phone number, so you'll put the beneficiary a good phone number for them. You'll just put it in. If you have multiple phone numbers, you'll put the different one here. If it's the same number, you'll just repeat the same number again in the mobile telephone, or vice versa. And then you'll put the email address for the beneficiary here as well. So let's see. And put contact information for the beneficiary. And then the next part of the form is going into the beneficiary's marital history. If the beneficiary has been married before, then you would put, again, how many times they've been married. So if it was once before, then you would say they've remarried now, so they are married. And you would put the same date as the marriage of the petitioner if this is a marriage-based petition. If it's a family-based petition for another category that isn't a spouse, then you would put their marriage date to their current spouse. Additionally, you'll put where they were married, so the city, state, province, and country. And then you'll provide the information for the spouses. So you'll go in order of the most recent to the oldest spouse. So you go the current spouse. If they're still married, you won't put a marriage end date. If you have a previous spouse, then you'll insert the information for your previous spouse, and you'll provide the divorce date. Again, if you are having a previous marriage, the divorce date should be before the date of your current marriage. For the beneficiary, you'll also include information about their family. Specifically, they're asking about any spouses or children. Even if you're a spouse filing the form for them, you're going to insert your information as person one here. So you'll put, even if it's the petitioner in this case, you'll put the spouse, and then you will put their relationship to the applicant. So you'll say spouse. and you'll provide the date of birth and their country of birth. If they have any children, or if you have any children, you will fill out the information of the children here. They give you up to 5 family members in the form. So if you have more than 5, again, you can add these in an addendum at the end of the form. The next part of the form is going to talk about entry into the United States, if the beneficiary has ever come to the United States. So if they have, you'll say yes, and then the next questions will pertain to a beneficiary if they are still in the United States at the time of filing. So if the beneficiary is here when you file the application, you'll choose what category they entered on. For example, if they entered as a tourist on a temporary visit, you will then select the category for their visa that they entered into the United States on. So this would be B2 is a temporary visitor, is a tourist visa. If they are in the United States, then they'll have a Form I-94. You can look up this information online. You will find the arrival and departure record number and insert that in the form here. Additionally, you'll put the date of arrival and then the date that the beneficiary's stay is authorized till or when it expires. For some visa categories, the I-94 will say DS. If that's the case, you'll just put DS for duration of status. You will also put the passport number that the beneficiary used when they entered the United States. If the beneficiary did not have a passport and they used some kind of alternative travel document, you'll put travel document number here. But if they used a passport, then you won't fill out that answer. Then you'll put the information for when or what country the beneficiary got their passport or travel document through, and the expiration date for that document. The next part of the form is going to go into employment information for the beneficiary. So you'll put the current employment for the beneficiary. If they're working, you'll again apply the current employer's information, the street address where they work, the country, and the date the employment began. If they're currently not working, you'll put that they're unemployed, and you'll put the date of employment is actually the date of unemployment for the beneficiary. They ask some additional information for the beneficiary in this form. So they're going to ask if the beneficiary was ever in any kind of immigration proceedings. If the answer is no, you could just skip a couple questions. If the answer is yes, then you want to provide information on what kind of proceedings the beneficiary was in. So if they were in removal, you would select removal, and then you'd put the city and state and the date when this took place. Some of the last items on the form include if the beneficiary is from a country or they have a written language that does not use Roman letters, you can type or print in their name and their address in that written or typed language, just so they have an example of what that looks like. If the language does have a Romanized version, then you can just skip this question. You don't need to fill it out. For spouse petitions, they're going to ask if the beneficiary and the petitioner live together. If you've never lived together, you'll put that you never lived together. If you're currently living together, you'll put your address. No longer do, you'll put that address. So it's the last one you lived at together. And you want to put the date, so you'll put the date from and then the date to. If it's current, you'll say present. And then they're going to ask, so is the beneficiary in the United States? If they're applying in the United States, then they're going to apply for what's called an adjustment of status with USCIS, or U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. Then you will fill out this part of the form. So you'll put the city or town and the state that you live in. This is important because wherever you put here for the address, that'll be where your application is processed. If you need to go to a green card interview or have any services done, they'll put the nearest field office to this city or state. So you want to make sure it's the closest one, so you can go to an address that's near where you live. If the beneficiary is not in the United States and they're applying for a green card abroad, they'll be applying for the immigrant visa through a U.S. embassy or U.S. consulate. So in this case, If you have a U.S. consulate or embassy in your country of residence, you'll put that information in here. Some countries don't have an active embassy or consulate, so if you put in your home country, they should automatically forward the case to wherever applications from your country are forwarded to for processing if there's no available embassy or consulate. You can try to request a different consulate, but these are very discretionary, so there's no guarantee. So in that case, the best option is to find the closest embassy or consulate in your home country and put the application there. The last part of the form is going to ask if the petitioner in this case has ever filed a petition for either this beneficiary before or any other relative or immigrant before. So if you have filed before, you would select yes, and you would put the information for the applicant here, put their name, the city or town or state that they applied in, the date the petition was filed, and then the end result. So if the petition was approved, you'd put approved. If it was denied, denied, or withdrawn. If you're also filing for multiple relatives at the same time as this form, then you will include these relatives here. You'll provide their information, so last name, given name, middle name, and your relationship to them. And this is the final kind of information for the form, is that question. The last parts of the form are going to pertain to signature and that kind of information. So if you can read the form, you speak English and understand all the questions, you'll say, yes, I understood. If you had an interpreter help you, you'll say, I had an interpreter, and then you'll provide the name of your interpreter here. If you had help from someone else, like an attorney or some kind of form preparer, then you'll say, I had help from this preparer, and put their name here. Here you'll put the contact information for the petitioner. So again, you'll put the daytime phone number, a good phone number to reach you at. If your mobile telephone number is the same as your daytime number, you'll just repeat that here. And then you'll put a good email address for the petitioner where they can contact you at. At the bottom, they're going to ask you to confirm that all the information here is true, it's accurate. You're going to confirm that, yes, I've provided this information, and then you're going to sign the form in ink, and you're going to date the signature as well. Please make sure to not use any kind of e-signatures. Those are not accepted, so you do need to print and sign this form. If you used an interpreter, then you're going to add the interpreter's information here. So you'll add their name, the name of the business they work at, the address, and their contact information. And then you will also have them fill out this part of the form and sign in ink, again, a handwritten signature, and the date that they signed the form. Last thing is they do the same for if you had a preparer on the case. So if you had an attorney or somebody else help you out, you would put their information, the name of their business, the business address, and you would put their contact information, so phone number and email. They would need to then select this information. If they're not an attorney but they're preparing, they'll select, or if they are an attorney, they will select which box applies. And then the preparer will also sign and date the form here. At the very end of the form, here's where you can put additional information. So like I mentioned, for some questions, they do have limits on how many answers you can provide in the form. So if you had additional addresses or employers, family members, names, those sorts of things, you would put the page number that that question was on, what part it was, and the item number, and then you would provide additional information. So you would be able to fill out, they give you a few boxes here on this page. If you still need additional information, you can make a copy of this page and continue filling out on another copy of the page, or you can make your own addendum page. And then once you've completed this for your relative, you have an I-130 completed. If you're doing a petition for a spouse, there is an additional form you will fill out, which is a supplemental form called the I-130A, but for this case, we're just doing the I-130.